girl entered a man's room by mistake. Now she's working for him, and the drama is just beginning. She thought it was just a simple mistake. One wrong door, one awkward night. But the man she accidentally woke up wasn't just anyone. He was the CEO of the company she was about to work for. And now, every morning, she had to face the man who saw her at her most vulnerable, and who seemed far too interested in making sure she didn't forget it. The morning sun had barely touched the tops of the buildings as Lily Anderson rushed down the crowded city street, clutching her phone and muttering apologies to anyone she bumped into. Her first day at the prestigious Zenith Corporation wasn't going as planned. She'd arrived in the city just last night, exhausted from the move, and the hotel she'd booked had somehow lost her reservation. By the time she found a last-minute room, her nerves were shot and her mind was a blur. She barely slept, and what little rest she did get had been shattered around 2 a.m. It was all supposed to be simple. She was here for a new beginning, a fresh start far away from her small-town life and the suffocating expectations that came with it. A new job in a city where nobody knew her, where she could be anyone she wanted to be. But nothing about last night had gone as expected. Lily could still feel the heat rising to her cheeks just thinking about it. It started when she stumbled back into the hotel after grabbing a bottle of water from the vending machine, half asleep, disoriented by the maze of identical-looking hallways. She was sure she had the right room, 1234. She remembered it so clearly, except the door had been ajar, just slightly. Maybe housekeeping had left it that way? She didn't think much of it as she stepped inside, setting the bottle down and fumbling with the light switch. What she hadn't expected was the low groan that came from the bed. Her heart leapt into her throat. A man. There was a man in the bed. Before she could process anything, the figure sat up, eyes squinting in the dark, muscles tensing. What the hell? His voice was groggy but firm. Lily screamed, backing into the wall, fumbling for the door. "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I thought this was my room. I didn't..." The man reached for the lamp, switching it on, revealing sharp blue eyes, tousled dark hair, and a bare chest that made her brain short-circuit for a second. He looked equally stunned, and then, to her horror, he smirked. "You're definitely not room service." She bolted, muttering a stream of apologies as she slammed the door behind her and ran down the hall. It wasn't until she reached her own room, 1235, that she realized her mistake. Now, standing in the sleek lobby of Zenith Corporation, Lily tried to push the memory from her mind. She smoothed her skirt, took a deep breath, and reminded herself that nobody here would know. She'd never see that man again. It was just a humiliating story she'd keep to herself forever. The receptionist smiled at her as she approached. "Welcome to Zenith. You must be Miss Anderson. Please take the elevator to the 25th floor. The team is waiting for you." "Thank you," Lily replied, her voice steadier than she felt. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding and she stepped inside, clutching her bag to her chest. As the floors ticked by, she rehearsed her introduction in her head. She was here to prove herself, to show them she was capable, competent, and professional. The doors opened and she stepped into a stunning open-concept office, all glass walls and polished wood. A group of employees stood near the conference room, chatting quietly. One of them turned at her approach. "Lily Anderson?" a woman asked, extending her hand. "I'm Rachel, head of HR. We're so glad to have you." "Thank you, I'm excited to be here," Lily replied, shaking her hand. "Let me introduce you to the team. Oh, and Mr. Knight will be joining us shortly." "Mr. Knight?" Lily asked, her stomach tightening slightly. Rachel nodded, smiling. "Yes, our CEO. He's very involved in onboarding new team members. He believes in knowing everyone who works here." Before Lily could respond, a hush fell over the room as the glass doors at the far end opened. A man stepped through. Tall, commanding, with piercing blue eyes and the same tousled dark hair she'd seen just hours ago. No. It couldn't be. But it was. The man from the hotel room. The man she'd stumbled in on. The man she had seen and been seen by at her absolute worst. He was the CEO. and now he was walking straight toward her, that same infuriating smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "Miss Anderson, welcome to Zenith," he said smoothly, extending his hand. Lily's heart pounded as she took it, praying her face wasn't betraying the sheer panic coursing through her veins. "Thank you, Mr. Knight," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please call me Ethan." Her mind reeled. Ethan Knight, the name she'd seen 100 times in business articles, the face she'd somehow never connected with those pieces, until now. Rachel smiled, oblivious to the tension between them. "Mr. Knight always makes time to personally meet our new hires." "I believe first impressions are important," Ethan said, his eyes locked on hers. Lily swallowed hard. "I couldn't agree more." As the others returned to their work, Ethan leaned in slightly, his voice low. "Nice to see you again, Miss Anderson." Her breath caught. This couldn't be happening. But as Ethan walked away, that confident stride unmistakable, Lily realized one thing. This wasn't just a job. This was going to be a challenge she never saw coming. And somehow, it was only the beginning. Session 1. The CEO who remembers everything. Lily could barely focus on the introductions as the team led her around the office. Each handshake, each name, each smile felt like a blur. Her mind wasn't here. It was back in that hotel hallway. The dim light casting shadows on the carpet, the panic rising in her chest as she stumbled into the wrong room. And now, standing in the middle of Zenith Corporation's sleek 25th floor, she was face to face with the one man she wished she could forget. The man she had embarrassed herself in front of. The man who now signed her paychecks. Ethan Knight. She kept stealing glances across the office, watching him in the glass-walled corner office, calmly flipping through papers like he hadn't just turned her world upside down. "Lily," Rachel's voice snapped her out of her daze. "Yes." "This is your desk," Rachel said warmly, gesturing to a modern workspace by the window. "You'll be working closely with Team B on the new client acquisition strategy. If you need anything, just let me know." Lily forced a smile. "Thank you. I really appreciate it." As Rachel walked away, Lily sank into the chair, exhaling slowly. Her fingers trembled as she opened her laptop and tried to find some semblance of normal. But nothing about this was normal. Not when her new boss had seen her in nothing but a tank top and panic, screaming in the middle of the night. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden voice beside her. "You look like you've seen a ghost." She turned sharply. "Ethan." "Of course." He stood casually, one hand resting on the edge of her desk, the other slipping into the pocket of his tailored slacks. His sleeves were rolled just enough to reveal strong forearms, and that same knowing smirk played on his lips. "I'm just getting used to everything," Lily said quickly, hoping he wouldn't notice the heat rising to her cheeks. He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "First days can be disorienting." She nodded, pretending to focus on her computer screen. "I hope your hotel room was more comfortable after the confusion." Her head snapped up, eyes wide. "You remember?" "Oh, I don't forget faces," Ethan said smoothly, "especially ones that barge into my room at 2 a.m. Lily's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "I didn't... it was an accident. I didn't know it was..." Ethan raised a hand, stopping her. "Relax. I'm not holding it against you. Mistakes happen." Mistakes? Yes, that's what it was, a stupid, humiliating mistake. "I just didn't expect..." She trailed off, shaking her head. "To see me here?" he finished for her, one brow raised. "Exactly." Ethan leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "Neither did I, but I'm glad I did." Her breath caught. Before she could respond, he straightened. "We have a meeting in 20 minutes. Conference room B. I'd like you to sit in." "Me?" she blinked. "Already?" "I like to see how new team members think. You'll just observe today," he smiled. "Unless you want to contribute, of course." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Lily with her heart pounding in her chest. This was not how her new job was supposed to go. The conference room was filled with sleek leather chairs and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Lily sat quietly near the end of the long glass table, notebook in hand, doing her best to blend in. Ethan stood at the head, exuding control and confidence, leading the discussion on a major upcoming merger. Her mind drifted, not because she wasn't interested, but because she couldn't stop thinking about the way he looked at her. Like he knew something she didn't. Like he was enjoying this a little too much. She forced herself to focus, jotting down notes, nodding when appropriate. Halfway through the meeting, Ethan glanced down at the report in front of him and frowned. "This data on client retention doesn't add up," he said, tapping the page. Everyone looked around. Lily hesitated, then cleared her throat. "I think it might be due to the seasonal variance. If you compare the last 5 years, Q1 always shows a dip due to market trends." All eyes turned to her. Ethan's gaze locked on hers, something unreadable in his expression. "Show me," he said. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up the data she'd memorized in preparation for the role. She turned her screen toward the room. "There's a pattern. It's not a performance issue, it's the market." A moment of silence. Then Ethan smiled. "Well done, Miss Anderson." Her cheeks flushed, but this time it wasn't from embarrassment. It was something else. Something dangerously close to pride. Later that afternoon, Lily was organizing her files when a small envelope appeared on her desk. No name, just a simple note. "Dinner, 7 p.m., the rooftop, don't overthink it." Her heart skipped. What was this? A professional courtesy? A test? Or something else entirely? She stared at the note for a long moment, the city lights flickering on outside the window. Don't overthink it. But how could she not? This was the CEO of the company, the man who remembered everything, the man who was about to complicate her life in ways she never imagined. Session 2. The rooftop, where secrets begin. Lily stood in front of the full-length mirror in her small apartment, clutching the note in her hand. The simple elegance of the words, "Don't overthink it," echoed in her mind like a warning. Or was it an invitation? Her fingers trembled slightly as she smoothed the front of her navy blouse. She'd changed into something that wasn't quite office attire, but not quite a date outfit either. Just safe. Neutral. Her heart, however, was anything but neutral. Dinner, the rooftop, 7 p.m. It was now 6:45. She should say no. This was dangerous. But wasn't her entire life already teetering on the edge of something she couldn't control? The rooftop of Zenith Tower was nothing short of breathtaking. Floor lights traced the perimeter, casting a soft golden glow, while the city stretched endlessly beyond the glass railings. In the center, a table for two stood waiting, adorned with white linen, candles flickering gently in the evening breeze. Ethan stood by the edge, his back to her, hands tucked into his pockets, gazing at the skyline as if he owned it. And in many ways, he did. Lily approached slowly, her heels clicking softly against the stone. "You came," he said without turning. "I wasn't sure if I should." He glanced over his shoulder, a slight smirk on his lips. "But you did." She stepped closer, feeling the pull of something invisible yet undeniable. "Is this professional?" Ethan turned fully now, his eyes locking onto hers with unsettling intensity. "Do you want it to be?" Her breath caught. The question hung in the air, heavy and charged. I don't know," she whispered. "Neither do I," he admitted, and for the first time she saw something in him that didn't fit the powerful CEO image. Uncertainty. He gestured toward the table. "Sit with me. Just dinner. No expectation." Lily hesitated, then nodded, her legs moving on their own as she sat opposite him. The waiter appeared almost magically, pouring wine and presenting dishes that looked far too elegant for someone like her. But Ethan barely touched the food, his attention never wavered. "So," he began, leaning back, wine glass in hand, "tell me about you." She blinked. "About me? Yes, I know your resume, your education, your job history, but I want to know you." Lily glanced away, unsure. Why? Because, he said softly, I want to know what kind of woman walks into a stranger's hotel room by mistake and then has the courage to face him the next day. Her cheeks flushed. That wasn't courage, that was survival. Still impressive, Ethan murmured. She took a sip of wine, gathering her thoughts. I'm from a small town. Moved here to prove something. To myself, mostly. I've always worked hard. Always tried to stay invisible. You're not invisible, he said, his voice low. Lily looked up, caught off guard by the way he said it, like a promise, like a truth. And you? She countered. What about you, Mr. CEO? He chuckled, a deep sound that vibrated through the night. Me? I've spent most of my life chasing numbers, success, building something from nothing. Is that what you want people to know about you, that you built this? Ethan studied her, then shook his head. No, I want people to know that behind all this, he gestured to the skyline, the wealth, the image. I'm still trying to figure out who I am when the world stops watching. Lily felt something shift. There, beneath the layers of power and confidence, was a man searching for something real. And she wasn't sure she was ready to be part of that. The night deepened, and with it the conversation turned softer, more personal. You know, Ethan said, tracing the rim of his glass, I didn't plan on seeing you again after that night. I didn't plan on seeing you either, Lily replied, half laughing. But then I did, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. She looked at him, her heart thudding. Why me? Because you didn't care who I was. You looked at me like I was just a guy. You were just a guy. In a room, at the wrong time. Or maybe, he said, leaning forward, eyes narrowing, the right time. Lily's breath hitched. Ethan, I'm not asking for anything, he interrupted gently. I just want to be honest. Her mind raced, the city lights blurring into stars around them. She stood, needing space. I can't, she whispered. I can't be part of some game. It's not a game, he said, standing too. I'm not like that. But this isn't normal, she argued. You're my boss. He nodded slowly. I know, and if this, whatever this is, makes you uncomfortable, I'll step back. Silence stretched between them, filled with everything unsaid. Lily looked at him, at the man behind the title, the eyes that seemed to see too much. I need time, she said finally. Ethan nodded. Take all the time you need. As she walked away, down the stairs and into the elevator, her heart was a storm. But one thing was clear. This wasn't over. Not yet. Session 3. Lines that can't be drawn. Lily arrived at work the next morning with a plan. A plan to forget. Forget the rooftop dinner. Forget the way Ethan looked at her, like she was the only thing that made sense in a world built on power and pretense. Forget how her heart had thudded in her chest when he promised no expectations, and yet somehow left her hoping anyway. She just needed to survive the day. As she stepped off the elevator on the 21st floor, the familiar hum of office life greeted her. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, voices murmuring over coffee. It was safe here, predictable, professional. And then she saw him. Ethan standing by the glass wall of the executive wing speaking with someone from legal. His tailored suit hugged his frame like it was made for him, and it probably was. His head tilted slightly as he listened, his expression serious, focused. Lily turned quickly, heart skipping. She wouldn't do this. She made it to her desk, burying herself in spreadsheets and client emails, determined to drown out the storm inside her. But the universe had other plans. Her phone buzzed. Ethan Walker, meeting in my office, 10 a.m. Her breath caught. Just business? Just a meeting? She typed back, hands shaking slightly. Billy Thompson understood. By 10 o'clock she was standing outside his door, clutching her notebook like a shield. Come in, his voice called, calm and unreadable. She pushed the door open, stepping into the familiar space, sleek, modern, and yet somehow warmer than she remembered. Or maybe it was just him. Ethan was seated behind his desk, a stack of files in front of him, but his eyes were already on her. "Close the door, please." Her heart pounded as she obeyed, the click of the door sealing them inside. "Sit," he said softly. She sat, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "This is about the Fenway account," he began, flipping open a file. "They're requesting a change in terms. I want your input." Lily blinked. Of course. For the next 15 minutes they discussed numbers, projections, strategies. Ethan was all business, his voice steady, his eyes never straying. And for a moment she almost believed they could do this. Be normal. But then, as the conversation lulled, he closed the file and leaned back. "Lily." Her name in his voice was different. Softer. More. She straightened, bracing herself. "I meant what I said last night," he continued, "about giving you space, about not crossing lines you're not ready to cross." She nodded, unable to speak. "But I can't pretend that what happened didn't matter." Her throat tightened. "Ethan, we work together. This is complicated," he finished for her. "I know." She stood abruptly, needing air, distance, something. "I should get back to work." He stood too. "Lily?" But she was already at the door, her hand on the knob. "Please," she whispered, not looking back. "Don't make this harder." The days passed in a blur of avoidance. Lily kept her head down, her focus sharp. She avoided the executive floor when she could, took lunch at odd hours, stayed late just to keep from running into him. But Ethan was never far, a glance across the conference table during meetings. A lingering look as he passed by. And then came the Friday. It started like any other day, until her manager, Claire, approached her desk. "Lily, can you attend the client meeting at Harbor and Row this afternoon?" Ethan asked specifically. Her stomach dropped. I thought Derek was handling that?" "Derek's out, it's just you." Lily forced a smile. "Sure." The meeting was at a sleek, high-rise downtown. Ethan was already there when she arrived, greeting the clients with his usual charm. "Lily," he said, his voice perfectly neutral, "glad you could join us." She nodded, keeping her eyes on the table. The meeting went smoothly. Ethan praised her insights, the clients were impressed, and by 4 p.m. it was over. As the clients left, Ethan turned to her. "Walk with me?" Lily hesitated, then followed him to the elevator, the silence between them growing louder with each step. The elevator doors closed and they stood side by side, not touching, not speaking, until the lights flickered, and the elevator jolted. They both stumbled slightly as it came to a halt. Ethan pressed the emergency button. "Looks like we're stuck." Of course they were. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20, and still silence. Lily leaned against the wall, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Ethan watched her, his hands in his pockets. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. "Maybe," he said, stepping closer, "but maybe it's also fate." She looked up, eyes flashing. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't do this now. We're stuck in an elevator. This isn't the time." "Maybe it's the only time," he said quietly. "Maybe this is the universe forcing us to stop running." She shook her head. "I'm not running." "Yes, you are. And I'm tired of pretending I don't notice." Her chest rose and fell rapidly. "You don't get to decide how I feel." "No," he agreed. "But I can tell you how I feel." Lily closed her eyes. "Ethan, I think about you, Lily, every day. Every time I walk into that office and you're not there, it's like something's missing. I don't want to play games. I just want to know if there's a chance, any chance, that you feel it too." The elevator was too small. Too hot. Too full of things she couldn't say. "I don't know," she breathed. He stepped closer, so close she could feel the warmth of him. "Then let me show you." The elevator jerked back to life, the lights flickering on, breaking the moment. They stepped apart as the doors opened. But nothing between them was the same. Session 4, the weekend we couldn't escape. Saturday morning arrived, but rest didn't come with it. Lily sat at her small kitchen table, a cold cup of coffee in her hand, staring at her phone. She hadn't slept, not really. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's face, heard his voice in that elevator. "Let me show you." She hadn't replied, and he hadn't followed. But the air between them was thick now, electric, as if one spark could ignite something neither of them could control. She needed distance. The kind of distance only miles could give. Her phone buzzed. "Mom, don't forget about Dad's birthday tomorrow. Coming down?" A breath escaped her lips, half relief, half dread. She had completely forgotten. Maybe this was her out, a chance to get away from the city, from the office, from him. She typed back quickly, "Lily, I'll be there tonight." By late afternoon, she was driving down the winding roads of her hometown, watching as the skyline gave way to trees and open fields. Her father's house sat on a quiet street, the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew each other and nothing ever really changed. Except her. She had changed. As she pulled into the driveway, she forced a smile. This was where she belonged, wasn't it? Grounded, simple, safe. The evening passed in a blur of family chatter, cake, and old stories. Her dad laughed more than she'd seen in months, her mom fussed over every detail, and for a moment, Lily felt something close to peace. Until she stepped outside for air, and saw him, Ethan, leaning against her father's fence as if he'd always belonged there. Her heart stopped. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, stepping forward. He pushed off the fence, his hands in his pockets. "I didn't know where else to go." She stared at him, incredulous. "You followed me?" "No," he said softly. "I asked Claire where you were. She told me. After I promised I wasn't coming to make trouble." "You think this isn't trouble?" Her voice was sharp, but her chest ached. "I needed to see you," Ethan said, stepping closer. "You ran, Lily, again. And I let you go because I thought you needed space. But now I need to know." Her throat tightened. "Know what?" "If you feel what I feel." She shook her head, the words catching. "You don't belong here, Ethan. This is my life. My family. You're not part of it?" he finished, his eyes dark. She didn't answer. "Lily," he said, his voice dropping, "I can't change who I am. I'm not asking you to change either. But I'm here. And I'm not leaving until you tell me to my face that there's nothing between us." Her eyes filled, the weight of it all crashing down. "I don't know if I can trust this," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Then let me earn it." The next morning, everything felt different. Ethan was gone. But his words lingered. Her father noticed the tension in her eyes as they sat on the porch, sipping coffee. "You okay, sweetheart?" Lily hesitated, then looked at him. "Dad, do you believe in second chances?" He chuckled softly. "I married your mother twice, didn't I?" She smiled, despite herself. "Why did you go back?" she asked. His eyes softened. "Because I realized that the only thing scarier than trusting her again was never knowing what we could have been." Back in the city, Lily stood outside Ethan's building, her hands trembling. She didn't knock. She didn't have to. The door opened, and he was there. "I didn't know if you'd come," he said. "I almost didn't," she admitted, "but then I realized, maybe I'm scared of the wrong thing." He stepped aside and she walked in. No more running. Session 5, The Truth We Tried to Bury. The air inside Ethan's apartment was warmer than Lily expected. Not just in temperature, but in the way everything felt, lived in, personal. She had only ever known the professional version of him, sharp suits, glass offices, impersonal charm, but here was the man beneath the surface. There were framed photographs on the side table, one of Ethan as a teenager, arms slung around a woman who could only be his mother, and another of a dog she didn't recognize. Books with dog-eared pages, a half-finished painting leaning against the wall. Lily paused, turning toward him. "You paint?" Ethan shrugged, suddenly sheepish. Not well. She stepped closer, her hand brushing against the edge of the canvas. Why didn't I know this about you? Because I never let anyone close enough, he said, his voice low. Not until now. They sat down across from each other, the silence stretching, not awkward, but heavy with everything unsaid. I didn't just come here because I missed you, Lily began, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I needed to understand. Why me? Why now? Ethan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Because you're not like them. Them? The people I'm surrounded by every day. They want something from me. My name, my money, my approval. You never did. You didn't even know who I was at first. Lily laughed bitterly. And yet you still let me walk into your room that night, thinking I was someone else. I didn't know who you were, he said, his voice tightening, but I never forgot you. A long breath passed between them. Ethan reached into the drawer beside him and pulled out something small, worn at the edges. A photograph. He handed it to her. It was a picture of two kids, barely teenagers, standing on a beach. The boy was unmistakably Ethan, younger, but still him, and the girl, her breath caught. That's me. He nodded. Summer camp, 15 years ago. She stared at the photo, the memory like a wave crashing over her. You're the boy who pulled me out of the water. You almost drowned, Ethan said, his voice rough with something old and raw. I never forgot. Lily's fingers trembled. I didn't even know your name. You gave me yours, he whispered, and I kept it. Silence, thick and suffocating. All this time. Their paths had crossed before, only to meet again now, years later. Was it fate, coincidence, or something more? Lily stood, pacing, her mind racing. Why didn't you say anything before? Because I wasn't sure if you'd remember, and I didn't want that to be the reason you stayed. She turned to him, eyes burning. Do you think I'm here because I owe you something? No, Ethan said, rising to his feet. I think you're here because you feel it too. She walked to the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. All this time, I thought I was the only one who carried that day with me, she murmured. You saved me, and I forgot. You were just a kid. It wasn't about that, he said softly, standing behind her now. It's about now. Lily closed her eyes. Everything she had believed about him, about herself, was shifting. She had come here for clarity. What she found was a truth she had buried long ago. She turned. I don't want to run anymore. Ethan stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. Then don't. I'm scared. So, am I? They stood there, inches apart on the edge of something vast and uncertain. But this time, neither moved away. Session 6. The Letter That Never Came. The following morning, Lily sat on the edge of her bed, the sunlight casting long golden streaks across the floor. Her fingers still clung to the photograph Ethan had given her the night before, faded at the corners, but clearer now in her heart than any memory she had ever doubted. She hadn't slept. Her mind was too full, restless with the weight of what she now knew. 15 years. 15 years, since that day at the beach, when the waves had pulled her under and a boy she'd never expected to meet again had saved her. And yet, somehow their lives had spiraled in tandem, leading them right back here. But the past didn't feel as distant as it should have. And in her heart there was still one thing Ethan hadn't said. She arrived at the office later than usual, expecting the bustle, the whispers. Instead, she found her desk empty. Except for a single envelope, no name, no markings. Her breath caught. She knew that paper, that slight crease at the corner. It was hers. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, revealing her own handwriting, a letter she had written, but never sent. Dear Ethan, you don't know me, but I know you. Or at least I remember the boy who pulled me from the ocean like it was yesterday. I don't know why I'm writing this, maybe to thank you, maybe to find out if you ever think of that day too. Tears welled in her eyes. This letter, She had written it when she was 17, tucked it away, hidden in a journal she hadn't opened in years. How had it ended up here? Behind her, a voice. "I found it," Ethan said quietly, standing in the doorway. "In your apartment that night, when I helped you home after the gala." Her breath hitched. "You read it?" He stepped inside, closing the distance. "I couldn't help it, and I had to know if you remembered." "I didn't, and not until you showed me that picture." Ethan's gaze softened. "We've been circling each other for years, Lily. Maybe it wasn't just chance." She looked down at the letter, her voice barely a whisper. "Why didn't you say something then?" "Because I didn't want to force your memories. I wanted you to find them when you were ready." Lily turned away, walking to the window, the city below moving as if untouched by the chaos inside her heart. "You know, I wrote that letter and then I was too scared to send it," she said. "I thought, what if I was the only one who remembered? What if it didn't mean anything to you?" Ethan came up behind her, his reflection in the glass beside hers. "It meant everything." A silence passed, thick and fragile. Lily reached into her purse and pulled out another envelope, this one old, yellowed by time. "My mother found this when she was clearing out the attic," she said. "It's from that summer." Ethan took it, his hands suddenly unsteady. He unfolded the paper. And his heart stopped. It was a letter addressed to him. "Ethan, thank you for saving my daughter. You were a brave boy, and I hope one day she finds someone with a heart like yours. If you ever want to visit, our door is always open. Sarah Bennett." His eyes burned. "I never got this," he whispered. Lily nodded, tears in her eyes. "Neither did I. She never told me she wrote it." The past they thought they had buried was no longer just memory, it was real, tangible, alive. A letter never sent. A bond never broken. Ethan folded the paper carefully, reverently. "All this time, we thought we lost each other. But maybe we were just waiting," Lily said, stepping closer, "waiting for the right time to remember." He reached for her hand, the air between them charged with something new, and yet as old as that summer, long ago. "Then let's not waste another minute." Session 7, the interview, the secret, and the storm. The newsroom was buzzing with energy. Lily sat at her desk, her computer screen glowing with the draft of her latest article, only she hadn't written a word. Her thoughts were miles away. Everywhere she looked, Ethan's presence followed her. The way his voice had trembled when he read her mother's letter, the way his eyes softened when he said, "Let's not waste another minute." And yet, the storm they had weathered wasn't over. If anything, it was only beginning. Across town, Ethan stood before the boardroom window of his company's towering headquarters, hands in his pockets, his jaw tight. The morning headlines were already flashing on his tablet. CEO Ethan Cole linked to rising star journalist Lily Bennett, a love story years in the making? He didn't need this. The attention, the speculation. Not now. His phone buzzed. "Ethan, the PR team needs you downstairs. There's a reporter asking questions." Lily's phone rang at the same time. "Lily, we have a problem," her editor said, his voice sharp. "Channel 8's running a segment tonight about you and Ethan Cole. They've dug into your past and they're asking for a statement." Her stomach twisted. What kind of past? "Something about that summer when you almost drowned. They're connecting it to him. They want to know if it was all planned, if you knew who he was before this." By noon, the storm had a name. Conspiracy. The media spun their story into something it wasn't. Headlines questioning whether their reunion was real, whether Lily had used her connection to Ethan for her career. Whether Ethan, the billionaire with everything, had orchestrated this whole thing. Lily paced her apartment, the letter from her mother clutched in her hand. Her phone buzzed again, this time Ethan. "Ethan, don't say anything. I'll handle it." By evening, Ethan stood in front of the cameras, poised, but furious beneath the calm. "This isn't a scandal," he began, voice clear. "This is a story of fate, of two people who lost each other once and were lucky enough to find their way back. "But Mr. Cole," a reporter cut in, "did you know about Miss Bennett's identity before you hired her firm?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "I didn't hire her. We met again by accident. The same way we met as children." Back at the apartment, Lily sat frozen, watching him defend her. Defend them. But something inside her ached. Because she hadn't told him everything. Not yet. The knock at the door that night was gentle but urgent. Ethan stood there, drenched from the rain. "Don't we call me?" he asked. She stepped aside, letting him in, her eyes rimmed red. "I didn't know what to say." He cupped her face, his voice low. "Then just say what's in your heart." She pulled away slightly, her fingers brushing the envelope she hadn't yet given him. "There's something else," she whispered. "Something I should have told you." She handed him the envelope. He opened it slowly. Inside was a photograph, one he hadn't seen before. It was from the beach. But it wasn't just of them. It was of another man, Lily's father. "After that summer," she began, her voice shaking, "my father tried to find you. He wanted to thank you in person, but your family, they moved. No one knew where you went." Ethan's eyes widened. "We left the city after my father's company collapsed." "I know." And that's why he blamed himself. He thought if he'd tried harder, maybe none of it would have happened. Ethan sank onto the couch, the weight of years pressing down. "My mother died soon after we moved," he said softly. "We lost everything." Lily knelt before him, tears falling freely now. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." They sat in silence, the storm outside mirroring the one within. But slowly, as the hours passed, the silence turned to something else. Understanding. They had been children caught in the currents of things far bigger than themselves. But now, they were no longer lost. "Ethan," she whispered, "we can't let them tell our story for us." He looked at her, his eyes fierce. "Then let's tell it ourselves." Session 8. The past, the promise, and the public eye. The air was thick with tension. Lily stood backstage, her palms cold despite the glaring lights heating the set just beyond the curtain. The talk show had insisted they appear together. Ethan Cole, the billionaire CEO, and Lily Bennett, the journalist now branded by the media as the woman who stole his heart and his headlines. Her eyes darted to Ethan standing beside her, adjusting his cufflinks with that signature calm he wore like armor. But tonight, that armor had cracks. She could see them in the way his fingers lingered at his wrist, in the way his eyes refused to meet hers. "You don't have to do this," she whispered, heart pounding. "We can walk away." Ethan looked at her then, and for a moment she saw the boy from the beach, the boy who had held her hand as she gasped for air, the boy who had disappeared. "I'm not running anymore," he said softly. The host's voice echoed from the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, a story that has captured the city's attention. Please welcome Ethan Cole and Lily Bennett." The cameras turned. The world watched. Lily's breath caught as they stepped onto the stage, hands brushing but not holding. The questions came quickly. "Mr. Cole, did you plan your reunion with Miss Bennett to soften your company's image? Miss Bennett, have you profited from your connection with Mr. Cole?" Ethan leaned forward, his voice firm. "This isn't about profit or plans. It's about a second chance at something we thought we lost forever." "But your father, Mr. Cole," the host pressed, "wasn't he involved in legal scandals before his death? Some say this is a distraction from your family's history." The air tightened. Ethan's jaw clenched, but it was Lily who spoke. "My father died thinking he failed the people he loved," she said, her voice trembling but steady. "Ethan's family wasn't the only one who lost everything." There was a silence, one that no question could fill. Then Ethan reached into his jacket, pulling out the photograph Lily had given him just days before. "This," he said, holding it up, "isn't a scandal, it's our truth." After the show, the city buzzed with opinions. Some believed them, some didn't. But as they stepped into the cool night, Ethan took Lily's hand in his. "We survived that," she whispered, still stunned. He smiled faintly. Barely. But their moment was short-lived. Waiting for them outside was a woman neither of them expected. "Hello, Ethan," she said, stepping forward, her face pale, her voice sharp. Lily stiffened. Ethan froze. "Clara," he breathed. Lily's heart dropped. Clara Hastings. Ethan's ex-fiancée. The woman he had once promised forever to, and the reason he'd sworn off love after her betrayal. Lily's throat tightened. She had heard of her, but never met her. Not until now. "What are you doing here?" Ethan asked, his voice hollow. Clara's eyes flicked to Lily. Cold. Calculating. "I saw the show," she said, "and I thought you deserved to know the truth." Lily stepped back instinctively, but Ethan held her hand tight. "What truth?" he asked. Clara reached into her purse, pulling out an envelope. Lily's stomach twisted. Another letter. "I didn't leave because I wanted to," Clara said, eyes glassy now. "Your father made me. He paid me to disappear." The world tilted. Lily felt it. Ethan's grip loosened. "What?" he whispered. Clara nodded. "He said you had too much to lose, that I wasn't right for you, that if I loved you, I'd let you go." Lily turned to Ethan, searching his face. But he was somewhere else now, lost in a storm she couldn't touch. "Why now?" he asked. Clara stepped closer. "Because I saw you with her, and I realized I didn't want to live with that lie anymore." The envelope shook in Ethan's hand. Inside were bank records. Dates. Amounts, proof. Lily's heart ached. Because suddenly she wasn't just looking at Ethan. She was looking at a man who had been betrayed twice. And yet he looked at her. Not Clara. And in that moment, Lily knew. This was the moment that would decide everything. "Lily," Ethan said, his voice breaking, "I don't know what's real anymore." Tears welled in her eyes, but she stepped closer, placing her hand on his chest. "This is," she whispered. "We are." As Clara turned and disappeared into the night, Ethan held Lily close. But his world was spinning. Because if his father had lied once, what else had been taken from him? Session 9. The Storm, the Secrets, and the Stand. The rain came hard that night. Not a drizzle, not a gentle mist, but a storm, the kind that felt like it could wash away everything if you stood in it long enough. Ethan Cole stood at the edge of his penthouse balcony, the city beneath him a blur of lights through sheets of water. His shirt clung to him, soaked, but he didn't feel the cold, not really. All he could feel was the weight of the envelope, still sitting on his desk. The weight of Clara's words, the weight of Lily, somewhere behind him, waiting, hoping that he would choose her. Right now, he didn't know if he could choose anything. Lily sat inside, wrapped in a blanket, watching the storm batter the glass windows. She had said nothing since they returned. She had given him space, the way you do with someone standing on the edge. But now she wasn't sure how long she could wait. She rose slowly, her bare feet silent against the hardwood as she walked toward him. "Ethan," she said softly, "come inside." He didn't move, didn't speak, just stared into the storm. She stepped onto the balcony, the rain hitting her like tiny daggers, but she didn't care. "Ethan, please." He turned, slowly, and for the first time she saw him not as the billionaire, not as the man with the perfect control, but as the boy who had been left. Not just by her, by Clara, by his father, by everyone he had ever trusted. "I don't know who I am anymore," he said, voice hoarse. She reached for his hand. "You're the man standing here with me, that's who." They stood there, the rain soaking them both, until finally Ethan pulled her into his arms. "I need to know everything," he whispered. "No more lies, no more secrets." The next morning the city woke to headlines. Ethan Cole requests full audit of coal industries. Clara Hastings speaks out. The legacy of Richard Cole, truth or power. Ethan sat at the head of the boardroom table, the same room where his father once ruled. The board members murmured among themselves, uneasy, unsure. I've called this meeting because I refuse to build my life, this company, on secrets anymore, Ethan said, his voice steady now. One of the older directors, Harold Kent, leaned forward. Ethan, what are you saying? I'm saying we open the books. All of them. My father's deals, his connections, his offshore accounts. Everything. Gasps echoed. You're risking everything, another member hissed. Our reputation. I don't care, Ethan cut in. I'd rather lose everything than live this lie one more day. Later that afternoon, Lily found him in his office, staring at an old photograph. His father, him as a child, Clara's letter beside it. I have to know if he destroyed her to protect me, Ethan said, not looking up. You're not him, Lily said gently. No, Ethan murmured. But what if I become him? That night, the private investigator returned. He placed a small black folder on Ethan's desk. This is everything, he said, and there's something else. Ethan opened the folder, eyes scanning pages, receipts, letters, and then he froze. What is this? He whispered. The investigator nodded grimly. Your father, he didn't just pay off Clara. He set up the crash, the night you almost died. Silence. It was deafening. He knew about the faulty brakes, the man continued. He planned it, to make sure you'd never leave. He needed you weak, dependent. Ethan couldn't breathe. His father had tried to kill him. Lily rushed into the room as the investigator left. Ethan? He looked at her, eyes wild, broken. He did it, he choked. My own father. She ran to him, catching him as he collapsed into her arms. For hours they sat on the floor, the storm outside long gone, but another raging within. In the morning, Ethan stood before the press. I have learned that my father was not the man I believed him to be. He manipulated, destroyed, and hurt people, including me. He paused. This company will no longer bear the weight of his sins. From today forward, Cole Industries will stand for transparency, for truth. The crowd erupted, some in shock, some in applause. Lily watched from the side, tears in her eyes. He had chosen, not power, not lies, truth. That night, Ethan found her in the small garden behind her apartment. He knelt before her, no ring, no speech. Just a man who had nothing left to hide. Lily, he whispered, I don't have all the answers, but I know I want to find them with you. She smiled through her tears, pulling him into a kiss. Session 10. The Scandal, the Choice, and the Chance for Forever. The city was buzzing. Every news outlet, every blog, every whisper on the street spoke of one thing: Ethan Cole. The man who exposed his own father. The man who dared to destroy a dynasty to rebuild something honest. But not everyone believed in redemption. Not everyone wanted truth. And when power is threatened, it strikes back, hard. It started with a headline. Sources claim Ethan Cole lied. Secret payments to his ex-girlfriend revealed. Underneath, a grainy photo of Lily. Her face blurred, but not enough. Not enough to stop the knives. Lily stood frozen in her apartment, the TV casting flickering light across the room. Ethan Cole's sudden crusade for justice is now in question, the anchor said. Documents leaked this morning suggest that he continued to pay Clara Hastings well after her supposed disappearance, and that the woman at his side, Lily Morgan, might have known more than she's let on. Her knees gave out. This wasn't just gossip. This was war. Her phone buzzed. Unknown, but she answered. Leave him, the voice on the other end said coldly, or everything you've ever done will be public. The abortion, the bankruptcy, the night your father died, all of it. Her breath hitched. Who is this? Click. Silence. Ethan burst through her door minutes later. Lily, don't believe any of it. She turned to him, eyes wide, hands shaking. They know about me. About everything. I don't care. I do, she shouted. This isn't just about your company anymore, Ethan. It's about me, my past, my family, and I'm not strong enough for this. He crossed the room, pulling her close, his voice low. Yes, you are. Her tears spilled over. What if I'm not? The next day, they were everywhere. Photos of Lily at 17. A hospital record, her father's death certificate. The lawsuit she had buried, the one that nearly ruined her. She wasn't the innocent anymore. She was the manipulator, the woman who tamed a billionaire. And Ethan was the fool. At Cole Industries, the boardroom was in chaos. You need to step down, Harold Kent snapped. We can't have this scandal destroy us. I won't, Ethan said, voice like steel. You've already dragged us into the mud with your father's legacy, now this? I said no. The room fell silent. I will not abandon her, he said. Lily, meanwhile, was packing. She couldn't do this. Not to him. Not to herself. When Ethan walked in, she didn't look up. Lily, stop. She kept folding clothes, her back stiff. You have a life to rebuild. She turned, tears streaking her face. I'm not the woman you need. He crossed the room in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders. You're the only woman I've ever needed. But I've lied, I've run, I've made mistakes. So have I, he shouted. God, Lily, don't you see? That's why we fit, because we know what it's like to lose, to hurt, and still, we're here. Her breath caught. I'm not leaving, he said, but if you do, I won't stop you. The next morning, the world waited. Would Ethan resign? Would Lily disappear? Would the Cole legacy finally crumble? Instead, Ethan held a press conference. And for the first time, he didn't stand alone. Lily stood beside him. No makeup, no script, just herself. I'm not here to defend myself, she said into the cameras, because I've made mistakes, and I've run from them. She paused, meeting Ethan's eyes. But I'm done running. Ethan took the microphone. This company was built on power, secrets, and control. My father taught me that. He looked around the room, at the sea of reporters. But Lily taught me something else. That love, real love, isn't about control. It's about choice. Silence. And then a slow clap, followed by another, and another. The tide turned. Not all at once, but enough. 3 weeks later, the headlines changed. Cole Industries reborn. A new era begins. Lily Morgan, from scandal to strength. Ethan stood in the garden behind their new home, a small ring box in hand. No cameras. No reporters. Just them. Marry me, he said softly. Lily laughed, the sound free, unburdened. I already have. He blinked. What? She pulled a small, worn slip of paper from her pocket. The day I decided not to leave? That was the day I gave you my yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger anyway. Forever? Forever. As the sun set, they stood together, knowing that storms would come again. But this time, they'd face them together. No lies. No secrets. Only love. When love becomes the only truth. The world may never forget how it all began. A mistaken room, a chance encounter, a woman caught between fear and fate. But that was never the real story. The real story was about choice. Lily Morgan didn't just choose love. She chose to face the very things she spent her life running from. Her past, her pain, her worth. Ethan Cole didn't just fall for her, he fought for her. In a world where loyalty was bought and sold, he stood by one truth. That love, real love, doesn't need perfect people. It needs people willing to fight, to stay, to forgive. They were both broken. She had scars no one could see. He carried burdens no one could touch. But together they built something stronger than any scandal, stronger than any empire. Lily didn't become the billionaire's wife. She didn't need his name, or his money, or the world's approval. She became the woman who taught a man how to love, how to live honestly, and how to rebuild not just a company, but a soul. As for Ethan, he didn't just inherit a legacy. He rewrote it. No longer the shadow of his father, no longer the puppet of power-hungry men. He became the man who chose love over fear, truth over comfort, or her over everything. Together they faced storms. Together they stood in the fire. And together they found peace. Because in the end, the greatest power isn't in fortune or fame. It's in holding someone's hand and knowing, this is home. Message to the reader. Maybe you've loved and lost. Maybe the world has told you that you're not enough, that your past defines you. But hear this. Real love sees past mistakes. It doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence, for honesty, for courage. So, if you've ever doubted, let this story remind you, you are worthy. You are enough. And love, true, healing, soul-deep love, will find you when you're ready to believe in it again. Thank you for reading. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment below. Have you ever believed love could save someone?
Thank you for watching today's CEO Love Stories. Every love story is a journey, one filled with passion, ambition, sacrifice, and unforgettable moments. Here at CEO Love Stories, we bring you the most compelling tales where power, success, and love collide. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget, like to support more incredible content. Comment your thoughts. Can love overcome power and ambition? Subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss our next breathtaking romance. CEO Love Stories, where love and power collide. Because love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. See you in the next story.